Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is an article in Reuters. FBI investigating Minnesota fraud scheme could be up to $8 billion or more, as certain Democrats have a net worth now of $30 million. We talked about that yesterday. Hit subscribe to this channel, to my super chat. Thank you so very much. Did the increase in net worth among certain Democratic Congress people, did that correlate directly to the billions in fraud? That is a question the FBI and others, in addition to how the fraud was able to take place. DHS is on the case as well. This is a PBS article. Surge in federal officers in Minnesota focuses on alleged fraud at daycare centers. Alleged. Axios, FBI, DHS escalate Minnesota crackdown. It's not rocket science. Very likely you're going to have a very top official, likely either the governor or a top Democratic representative. Tim Walz faces indictment from this. If he gave tacit approval, if he went after whistleblowers to try to intimidate people from uncovering crimes, if he, let's say, possibly participated in the crimes, I don't know how you allow $8 billion or more in terms of fraud under your watch as governor. That's very, very bizarre. You'd have to be completely inept. You'd have to be the most inept governor in the history of the country, or either complicit or providing tacit approval. Hit subscribe to this channel, to my super chat. Thank you. Let's get it started, everybody. Be here tonight also at around 10 o'clock Eastern for the evening live stream, and go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right after this. Let's go.
Minnesota mayors are sounding the alarm over alleged fraud in their state, writing in a letter to Governor Tim Walz, quote, "Fraud, unchecked spending, and inconsistent fiscal management in St. Paul have trickled down to our cities, reducing our capacity to plan responsibly, maintain infrastructure, hire and retain employees, and sustain core services without overburdening local taxpayers." Now, the letter comes as feds say fraud could top $9 billion in the state, funds that were meant to go to another.
So not $8 billion, potentially $9 billion. That is completely nuts.
Number of causes. Help feed children, help people recovering from addiction to find a place to live, help disabled adults live independently, and one-on-one therapy for autistic children. And yet, they allegedly ended up going to things like this: wire transfers to China and East Africa, luxury homes, vacations and vehicles, stacks of cash, and jewelry. Joining me now, two of the mayors who signed that letter raising concerns over this alleged fraud: Stewartville Mayor Jimmy John King and Lexington Mayor Mike Murphy. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. Mayor King, let me just start with you. Why did you feel the need to sign on to this letter, and what do you hope it will accomplish?
Well, the need to sign on to this letter is finally coming to light. This has been going on since 2018, 2019. And our budgets have been growing down here like anywhere else, but our state help seems to be shrinking. Now we find out why it's all disappearing. Now we're hoping it'll bring some light, help bring more light to this massive fraud that is going on in our state that affects all of us just by increased real estate property taxes.
You know, Mayor Murphy, I guess you probably feel the same as to why you signed this letter. What has been the reaction to this letter? Have you heard from Governor Walz? Has he invited you to participate in dialogue, to perhaps have a face-to-face visit?
No, unfortunately, Tim Walz hasn't reached out to us at all, and I don't anticipate him doing so, because that just means it's just another level of accountability for Tim Walz. And, there's a little nickname for him going around Minnesota. He's the fraud father, and that's exactly what it is. And I'm not trying to make this sound partisan at all, Griff, but at the end of the day, if you look at Democrat-ran cities, this is exactly the policies that they support. And this is the reason why cities like mine and Jimmy's here are suffering.
This is why Democrats gave tacit approval to people, complete maniacs, keying Teslas and going after Tesla dealerships and putting people's lives at risk. That's why they didn't like Doge. Why do you? If it's simply about protecting vulnerable people and helping feed people and helping people survive and poverty and helping alleviate poverty, wouldn't you want to ensure that graft and bribery and fraud is taken out of the system so you have more money to help poor people? But that's not the way wonderful, morally superior, highly educated Democrats think. The fact that this has elicited less outrage than the average Truth Social post from President Trump among morally superior, highly educated Democrats. They don't care. This is not national security. This is not a problem for Democrats. They don't see this as $8 billion down the drain, wasted in rampant fraud and corruption. For some reason, that's not an issue for them. Trump's tweets are a huge issue, or his Truth Social. That's a really, really big thing for the wonderful, morally superior, which is why President Trump won twice.
Because of these unfunded mandates. And at the end of the day, Griff, we're the ones fixing the roads, and we're the ones picking up the phone when you call 911, and we're offering essential services to our communities. And these unfunded mandates, this fraud, and the shrinking government assistance to the cities, it's killing us. It's killing our taxpayers.
You know, Mayor Murphy, it's also killing the economic reputation and standing of your state. We did a little research here. We want to show you how much Minnesota is slipping in national economic rankings. You see GDP growth 18th, 2007 to 2019 to 33rd, 2019 to 2024. Job growth 20th to 39th. Labor force growth 22nd to 40th. Per capita income growth.
And this mirrors the decline in every other blue state. But when you have political machines that suddenly find boxes and boxes of you know what, and they're political machines that are entrenched within states that have a great many beautiful, amazing people. When I say morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat, they truly believe that they're morally superior. They are highly educated, but they're also really good people, almost always wonderful human beings. They possess a great deal of wisdom, maybe not when it comes to politics, but they're good people. But unfortunately, it's like an indoctrinated atheistic political religion. They just don't care. They just don't care. The people who the ideology is, it's like a religion. They just don't care as the blue states continue to decline in terms of their economy, in terms of their quality of life, in terms of the fraud, the rampant waste and fraud and criminality. They just don't care. All you have to say is Trump bad, and they'll vote Democrat. It's a lot of people. It's unbelievable.
25th to 33rd, and the list goes on and on. Let me ask you, Mayor King, is that acceptable? And do you lay this at the feet of Governor WALZ?
Of course, this has got to be laid at the feet of the people that are in charge of this state. It's like they got together with Illinois and see who could race to the bottom fastest. Illinois was headed there quicker than us, but it's like Minnesota said, hold our beer and watch what we can do. That's the feeling I get out of this, like it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah, and
I don't like.
You know, here's a question for either of you, and I'll start with you, Mayor Murphy, if you know, but we're, nationwide, we are astonished to hear that the fraud could top $9 billion. But you are close to the numbers. You see this in your state up close and personal. Do you suspect that the number could actually be larger once that there is an actual auditing or pulling back of the curtain on what actually happened?
Well, yeah, I do. I think that number is going to grow as the feds and the special task force President Trump sent to Minnesota is going to start uncovering the fraud that has been going on in the state for years. Back in 2022, I ran for governor in Minnesota for the Republican endorsement because during the COVID lockdowns, we were sick and tired. I personally was sick and tired of Tim Walz's tyrannical government mandates, and I wanted to go do something about it. And fraud was a big issue back then, but now it's 10 times worse. And the problem is, us as small cities, the things that we face is, like my city, for example, needs water infrastructure. The city my size is around 4,000 people, but it's nearly impossible to try to fund a $10 million water plant with a 4,000 person city. So we're forced to buy from our neighboring communities. But if there wasn't so much fraud, waste, and abuse, Minnesota Griff, there would be money available for us to build that water treatment facility for our residents. That's the point that us Americans.
And you see it in Michigan, you see it in other states where the Democrats are very powerful. Water treatment facilities, okay? That was a huge issue during President Obama's administration in Michigan. And the racket is, what about the poor? What about the downtrodden? What about the vulnerable? As the Democrats allow or are complicit or engage in rampant graft, bribery, fraud. It's a racket. That's why Bernie Sanders and AOC don't like Elon Musk or Doge. It's a racket. If you don't have poor people, well, does Bernie Sanders have a political career? No. Does he want people does he want poverty to persist? Maybe not, but his policies or his advocacy, the Democratic Party that he's devoted his soul to, it's almost as if they want people poor. And one of the ways they want people poor so they can always say, we're going to help poor people, because there'll always be poor people, because if Democrats don't do anything like what President Trump is doing, imposing tariffs to bring manufacturing jobs and other jobs back to the country, to address outsourcing, which causes poverty, okay, Trump wants to make people wealthy. He wants to get people out of poverty. It seems almost that Democrats want to keep people in poverty. It's unbelievable. So they can then say, oh, we're morally superior, as they allow billions in fraud for programs that are supposed to help families. It's a tip of, this is happening. You can read, I think it's called The Plunkett of Tammany Hall. You read about Tammany Hall in the late 1800s. It's the same thing. It's a political machine. The template for the political machine was created over 120 years ago. They do the same things, and it's the same things. Boss Tweed, look up Boss Tweed.
Are trying to make is there's so much waste in the state that there's nothing left for the people that matter, which is us.
Wow, and that obviously isn't sitting well with your residents. Mayor King, let me ask you, have you heard from your constituents, your residents, about this, and how do they feel?
Well, we hear about it down here at City Hall constantly, because when we have to balance our budget and have our truth in taxation, we've got to come up with reasons why, and we all know now part of the reason why is the fraud and corruption that's going on. I mean, this next program they're coming out with after the first year is so ripe and set up for fraud. This private family medical leave plan. I mean, I don't think you guys have seen anything yet. I believe the next move they'll make is they'll put a line item in the state budget for fraud, so the auditor has an easier time figuring out where all the money went.
Wow.
I can see that coming.
Well, it is absolutely astonishing. We've got to leave it there. It'll be interesting to see what Governor WALZ has to say, and it's shocking.
These two gentlemen have to be on a national stage, especially the gentleman, the mayor on the left. He's awesome. They're both awesome.
To hear from both of you that there's been no response, and he doesn't even want to dialogue, let alone meet to discuss this. Mayor King, Mayor Murphy, thank you.
Secretary Scott Turner joins me now. It's very hard to understand how this has gone on for so many years, especially considering there were a couple guilty pleas on this. And the governor's office, Tim Walz, has said that they have been on it. There's an investigation, but yet nobody's been found guilty of anything.
Well, Happy New Year, Julie. Thank you for having me. I know from HUD's standpoint, you know, we have boots on the ground right now. We have investigators that are making sure that any HUD-funded programs in Minnesota are being carried out appropriately. Also, we just launched an investigation into housing authorities, public housing authorities there in Minnesota. They receive about $108 million in Minneapolis and also about $46 million in public housing assistance there. So we want to make sure that we're being good stewards over taxpayer money. So these investigations are going on right now from a HUD standpoint. And to the president's point, we have to root out this fraud and abuse and this waste, because this is hard-working American taxpayer funds, and there's been criminal activity going on, and so we have to root it out and continue to enforce the law.
Okay, so let's talk about the alleged lawbreakers. They are Somali immigrants. That is a fact. And the investigation will continue to find whether or not there are other people involved. But nonetheless, you've got mainstream media that seems to be focusing less on the actual massive fraud scandal that is happening and developing every day more and more. We're learning more out of Minnesota, and focusing more on the Somali immigrants that are actually the real victims in all of this. Listen to this exchange on CNN, for example.
What's going on here is very clear. It's a targeting of the Somalis.
Everything seems to be about whether or not the people involved here are Somali.
That's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Democratic Party scandal. It is not, and like I always say, every one of these segments, God bless the Somali community in Minnesota and everywhere in the world. I respect and love the Somali community, because there's a great many, the majority are super hardworking, family-oriented, beautiful, amazing human beings. I love President Trump. I wish President Trump would simply call it a Democratic Party scandal, because you're giving Democrats on CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, Washington Post a layup, an alley, like a slam dunk. Like, you're giving them the easiest out. They can circumvent rampant fraud by saying it's bigotry. Okay, if a great many people within a certain community are tied to this, the governor is and Joe Biden and everyone else, most of the people within the Democratic Party are not from that area of the world. It's a Democratic Party scandal. Why? I love President Trump, but why give Democrats an out? Why give them the ability to circumvent the fact it's a Democratic Party scandal? This is happening in every blue state, in every blue city.
White evangelical crowd who purports to uphold these Christian values are celebrating targeting communities because of their ethnicity and cutting off care to children.
And it's not just racist and xenophobic. It's actually dangerous, because what Donald Trump is doing in targeting this community, it's putting American citizens in danger.
What does targeting?
All you need to do is give Democrats 1 inch of something that could be seen as prejudice, which is, and they'll run with it. And it's not good politics. It gives them an out. It gives them the ability to circumvent reality, which is what they enjoy doing. It's a Democratic Party scandal. And it's like, if you have 100,000 or 200,000 people, you can't paint the entire community with the same brush. You could have veterans. You could have people who start businesses. You could have people who vote Trump. You could have people who can't stand WALZ or Omar or anyone else. But when you do that, it's not good. It's not good politically. You're not building Make America Great Again, even though, you can just look at the Democratic Party fraud and waste and corruption. That alone is building Make America Great Again. It's just, I watch a bunch of awesome channels, and there's a discussion of what is and isn't American. And it's like, if you are a veteran, if you have served, it doesn't matter how many generations. You could be a first generation. You're more, in my view, more American, more heroic, more courageous, more a fabric of this country, more a backbone of this country than most other people. I didn't serve in the military. I didn't risk my life for this country, but I love this country. But if you did, if you're a veteran of any ethnicity, You deserve respect, immediate respect from everybody, regardless. Let's say you're left wing, let's say you're a veteran who's left wing, right wing, it doesn't matter. Conservative, liberal, it doesn't matter. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. And so there could be veterans. There could be active duty soldiers. There could be a whole bunch of people who are risking their lives for the country within the Somali community. People who are business owners. What is the point of turning it into labeling it a certain way that just gives Democrats the usual typical out so they can go pontificate? The Democratic Party is composed of highly educated, morally superior, highly educated AI robots in the form of human beings. I'm being facetious, obviously. They're programmed and indoctrinated to lecture and pontificate and preach and condemn and judge. They don't care about fraud, waste, endless wars. They don't care about any of that stuff. It's like a wind-up toy. Why wind up the morally superior, highly educated lecturing toy? So they could just lecture. Like, why do that? It makes no sense. Anyway, let's continue.
Somali immigrants and communities and racism, quite frankly, have to do with illegal activity. I mean, there are videos, there are surveillance videos of people actually exchanging hands, exchanging money with parents that are pretending to bring their kids to these learning centers. I love that one with the typo on that learning center. And then taking their kids away and people collecting money on it. I can't understand what ethnicity has to do with that. That's just fraud.
Well, Julia, it has nothing to do with it's smoke and mirrors.
Ethnicity should not be the focal point. My God Almighty. I mean, I'm not preaching also. I'm not lecturing. You could believe what you want to believe, and that's fine. The issue is it's not if President Trump, I love President Trump, if he gives Democrats the ability to lecture and pontificate forever, they're going to just try to evade, circumvent this scandal. Even if WALZ is indicted, they'll say, "Oh my God, it was a bigoted tirade that ended in Trump's political rival being indicted." Just focus on just the fact it's a Democratic Party scandal, just like Jeffrey Epps was a Democratic donor.
This is all a distraction from what the real problem is here. This has nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with ethnicity. We have to, under President Trump's leadership, American people are first. Our country is first. Has nothing to do with the Somalis, but it has everything to do with criminal activity. Our job, when we get appointed, elected, our job is to uphold the law. And so that's what you see going on right now. And there's a lot of people in our country, the clip that you showed, some of the media, far left activists that actually do not want the laws of America to be upheld. But this is a day with President Trump and other leaders in our administration where we're going to uphold the law, enforce the law, and prioritize the American people and American people only.
I want you to listen to David Sachs on why he believes that Democrats aren't outraged over Somali fraud. Let's listen.
Democrats denouncing government waste is like Don Corleone denouncing the mafia. Okay. The Democrat Party is the party of government waste and spending, taxation. It's the party of government. Okay. And they just want the government to be as large as possible. And if a big chunk of that goes to fraudsters, so be it. You know what? Those fraudsters are donors too.
Yeah, I mean, the government has been doling out millions of dollars for fraudsters, and the Democrats don't think to seem that's a problem.
Well, yes, ma'am. With our agency finance report that just came out at HUD, we found that a potential over $5 billion of payment errors were made during the Biden administration. So not only is this a massive abuse of taxpayer dollars, but it also was incentivized because of the negligence and the inability of the Biden administration to put in proper financial controls. And so you think about it, those that don't want the law to be upheld, obviously either they're benefiting from it or they don't care about our country. But this is a new day, new president, new administration. We care about the American people. We want to be and we will be good stewards. We will enforce the law. And those that have criminalized and frauded the American people, they will be held accountable.
All right, Scott Turner, thank you very much. Happy New Year. Thank you for.
It shouldn't be difficult this very likely leads back to the governor. Okay, none of this can take place without the people at the top allowing it or being complicit in some manner. either allowing it or being complicit.
And DeRoy Murdoch, he's a Fox News contributor, and Josh Hammer, a political commentator. Gentlemen, great to see you. I don't know about you, but I was really glad to hear what Governor Braun was saying. DeRoy, is Indiana showing the country, particularly the governors of this country, looking for some answer, the right answers?
Yeah, David, it's great to be with you. And yeah, that is the right answer, because there are people who are needy, who can't take care of themselves. And that's why government is there, to take care of folks like this. And when you see the stuff going on in Minnesota with these people stealing something like $8 billion, sending some of it back to Somalia, possibly to terrorists, buying sports cars, going on vacations. This is disgusting. Not just the fleecing of the taxpayers, but the fleecing of people such as autistic children, who are the kind of folks who can't take care of themselves and need public services. And they're taking money away from those kids. This money could be used to give those kids the help they need.
Absolutely.
Instead, it's being pocketed by thieves, by crooks. And I really want to commend Nick Shirley for his excellent video. It's about 40 minutes long.
Terrific stuff.
And he gets into great detail about this. They go to multiple child care centers, healthcare centers, where there's nobody there. They're just empty buildings, and people are sucking up the cash. And the real victims, the people who need government's help, are the ones who are being most disserved by this. And the Democrats should be the ones leading the charge to take care of the people they say they support and care for. And obviously, they really don't.
By the way, that we're looking at the video. We don't have the sound on, but you're looking at the video that this guy put out. Incredible, Josh, what he has done. And I just think, the Pulitzer Prize Committee has given out a lot of bad awards in the past, going back to the 1930s when they gave money to a guy covering up the USSR atrocities named Durante, all the way up to the collusion BS that they got at the Washington Post and New York Times. This is real journalism. This is a guy who deserves a Pulitzer. I suggested earlier on X that Elon Musk should start a new a civilian journalist award system to honor people like this and the work that he's doing.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive.
Question that I have is, why did this fall?
So Nick Shirley deserves independent YouTuber. Subscribe to his channel. He is the epitome of a journalist. So, again, there are so many. If you just think of things logically, Nick Shirley's doing amazing work. And he has stated he himself has stated it's not fraud that is the cause of a specific ethnicity. It's fraud that, he said, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter who you are, it hurts the country. So he's awesome. Nick Shirley is awesome.
Fall upon Nick Shirley, an independent YouTuber that I'm not sure how many Americans had even heard of until about a week ago or so. Why did it fall on him to do this? To be clear, I am extremely happy they did this. This footage has now racked up 100 million views, more or less, which is frankly just an astonishing number. But where's the corporate media? I mean, where are the old school? Just kind of that old-fashioned leather bootstrap journalism that really prevailed in this country for a very, very long time.
I have to push back a little bit, because we are a corporation. We're run by a corporation, and we have done a lot of investigation into all this. People both on the reporter side and on the anchor side. Elizabeth McDonald has done extraordinary work in getting into the nuts and bolts. She, like myself, worked at the Journal, so we're used to doing stuff. But I think the Fox has pushed back a lot.
Oh, for sure. No, of course. Look, I'm the senior editor-at-large of Newsweek, a mainstream media company in its own right. We've been covering this story very much as well. So there are some exceptions, but I mean, CNN, MS Now, New York Times, there's a lot of folks where if you try to Google on the search bar at the website there, this story, frankly, is nowhere to be found there.
Absolutely.
So Nick Shirley's done a tremendous public service, and hopefully that he is rewarded for it.
DeRoy, just to give an idea of how bad the situation, we haven't seen the worst of it. Socialized medicine. If we go whole hog for socialized medicine,
we can't afford socialized medicine because of the $8 billion in fraud in Minnesota. A Democratic Party either complicit or enabled or, more than allowed the fraud. It's like Democrats want all of these wonderful, morally superior, amazing programs, yet the country can't afford them because of the fraud that Doge was trying to uncover, which of course it's almost as if Democrats want the fraud to persist so people remain poor. That's almost as if like it's by design.
Begin to resemble less of the model for the world in terms of private health care than we are the UK-styled socialized medicine, which is becoming, even the Washington Post had an editorial about the UK socialized system. They say child care providers didn't take, they say hospital corridors overflow and routine procedures get canceled due to a catastrophic event commonly known as winter. It comes around every year, yet the system, despite annual funding increases, still somehow remains unable to cope. That is what socialized medicine will bring you. I hope Americans are aware of that, and I hope Americans are aware of that's where Obamacare is leading us.
Well, that's right. I mean, what the beauty of socialized medicine is that it allows everyone to enjoy equalized misery. And it's supposedly free at the point of service, except you pay for that with higher taxes. I heard a terrible story about a British man, older man, who hurt his hip, and it took like 6 months before they could see him. By the time they saw him, that tear in his, or break in his pelvis had frozen. He spent the rest of his life walking around with his hip at an angle like this because they didn't see him in time to take care of him. Here in this country, it'd be seen within hours or maybe a day at most. And this is just a sick, disgusting system. And Great Britain's a NATO country, major world power, big leading country, great ally of ours. But their healthcare system is something out of the third world, or maybe even worse. And people suffer while it's free of charge, quote unquote. People are not getting quality care over there, and a lot of people suffer. And you've even seen higher incidence of morbidity and even earlier deaths in places like that than over here.
Absolutely. Well, I lived in a British hospital for a month when my wife had a stroke over there, and people were dying of MRSAs all around us. I know a MRSA, that's the resistant kind of penicillin. And you build up resistance to it, so people, can die from common colds in the hospital. That was happening all around us, and it's because they just give people an overdose. Too much antibiotics leads to no immune system on your own. But Josh, I just want to talk for a moment about what we do with the enablers, and I'm talking about Governor WALZ in particular, and Attorney General Keith Ellison as well. There's a long paper trail of them enabling the people, the fraudsters who were responsible for this. You can go back to 2023 when there's an ex post by the governor saying child care providers didn't take this job to get rich. Oh, yeah? But they sure as heck didn't take an oath of poverty either. We're providing direct funding to boost pay for child care providers. Well, he came off saying that, we need to pay these people more. We want to give them direct money, which of course can easily be split off for kickbacks if some of that was going on as well.
The real estate market.
I think the question to me right now is, what did Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, other statewide officials, what did they know and when did they know it?
Right.
And perhaps just as important is the corollary to that, which is, what did Kamala Harris's vetting team know and when did they know it? Because let's not forget that Tim Walz was picked out of relative obscurity and brought to be Kamala Harris's running mate in their failed ticket just last year. So on the one hand, maybe Kamala Harris's vetting team was just grossly incompetent. On the other hand, it's arguably even worse. They saw this and said, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it there. The good news is that Treasury Secretary Bessent is currently looking into this. They're currently investigating possible financial crimes there. So that is definitely very encouraging to me there. But this is certainly all hands on deck for all officials who are willing to investigate there, because the public deserves a lot of answers. Minnesotans, frankly, deserve a lot of answers as to what the heck happened to their public taxpayer dollars and who was responsible for it ending up in the coffers of al-Shabaab in Somalia, for goodness sake.
And it's not just the governor, by the way, DeRoy. Keith Ellison, there's a tape from him, I think it was back in 2021, where he was dealing with some of these fraudsters, essentially saying, don't worry, we'll be able to take care of things. And these are people who were contributing money to his campaign. And they turned out to be right at the heart of the biggest part of this scandal.
Absolutely right. This is, a lot of this stuff ends up being kind of a money laundering system where people in the government give money to folks in the private sector, and they turn around and kick that money back in terms of political donations.
That's exactly right. That's why AOC's campaign, Ilhan Omar's campaign, a whole bunch of Democrats and Republicans too. But the Democrats have made it, they're brilliant at it. Consulting. You can get a whole bunch of donations, millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in donations, whether it's for single payer health care, Medicare for all. 10 years ago, a whole bunch of people who shall remain nameless did these Medicare for all funding drives. And you look at AOC, for example, there was a campaign finance allegation against AOC years back that revolved around consulting, like payment to a consulting firm of somebody that was very close to her. Same with Ilhan Omar, I believe. And so if you are a Democratic politician, media loves you, you're going to get a lot of money in donations. That's how they cheated Bernie Sanders. They just, got all his donations and said, oh, well, you can't win. And then we found out, and of course it was the Russians that told us. But all that money needs to be spent. I think Kamala Harris spent something like $1.5 billion, $1.3 billion. The DNC is like still paying debts, I believe. And let's continue.
I think it's part of why there's been so little scrutiny on this until people like Fox News and Nick Shirley have put a lot of light onto this mess. Up until now, they've paid very little attention as people have had, again, as Nick Shirley shows, people having multiple of these fraudulent childcare centers at the same address. In one case, they lost their license, but they popped up, they changed their name, they were in business the next day in the same location. And I think they're looking, a lot of the reason that this didn't get the government scrutiny it should have is people looked at, in Minnesota, the Democrats looked at the Somalis as a great base of political support, 100,000 people who vote as a bloc. So let's not alienate them. Let's look the other way. Let's let them take money and let them make sure they show up at the polls.
And not only political support, but perhaps some financial support as well. We got to look into all of that. Treasury agents are combing the field in Minnesota right now, looking for details. Gentlemen, great to see you.
So that shouldn't be difficult. He could potentially get indicted this year if there's enough evidence. It's mind-boggling to think that evidence doesn't exist, that top officials within one political party that run the state have committed crimes.
Update on one of our biggest stories heading into the new year. The Department of Health and Human Services is cutting off all federal child care payments to Minnesota. This in response to allegations of sweeping fraud. And the White House says there will be consequences.
This is a top priority for the administration. The Department of Justice, as we speak, is continuing to execute search warrants and subpoenas. People will be in handcuffs as a result of the fraud that Governor WALZ has allowed to occur for many, many years.
Well, a YouTuber who made a viral video on the scandal was seen squaring off with protesters outside of a daycare center. We have Garrett Tenney. He has more on all of this from Chicago. Good morning, Garrett.
Molly, good morning to you. This is a big move by HHS. It adds to the several other federal agencies that have already paused funding for Minnesota over those concerns of fraud. So now the $185 million a year that HHS provides the state for childcare is on hold. And starting immediately, the agency says the rubber stamping of payments through its administration for children and families is over. Every payment will now require a justification and a receipt or photo evidence before a state can receive that funding. The ACF Assistant Secretary says the pause on funding is necessary until we know how rampant the fraud in the childcare space really is.
With AI,
you can create
stolen by fraudsters is stolen from those children. Yesterday, I spoke directly with the director of the Minnesota Child Care Services Office. She could not tell me with confidence whether those allegations of fraud are isolated or whether there's fraud stretching statewide.
HHS is also setting up a nationwide hotline for folks to report suspected fraud in the child care space wherever they are. And the agency is also demanding Minnesota Governor Tim Walz turn over detailed records on the daycare centers highlighted in Nick Shirley's viral video. Yesterday, the YouTuber was back outside the Quality Learning Center, where he was confronted by a small group that was not happy about what he's doing there.
You're not going to believe what's in there.
This was all day yesterday. Hundreds of cars lined up along Cedar Avenue, honking, screaming, swearing, threatening us.
It's crazy what's happening here in Minnesota. People work way too hard for billions of dollars, whether it's a Republican doing the fraud or a Democrat doing the fraud. Fraud is fraud. So we should hold each and every single person accountable for it.
And you'll remember the...
So Nick Shirley is a journalist, a true journalist. Where were the papers, like the top publications, the newspapers in Minnesota? What were they doing the past 5 years? Aside from, harping on Trump. Isn't it the job of the press and media in Minnesota to uncover this? One would think that it's the job of the media in the state, not just to focus only on how Trump. What about the $8 billion? You think maybe that's a bigger story? That's a story of greater consequence and more important to the average person in Minnesota than like liberal journalists who devote their lives to disparaging Trump?
Sign of the Quality Learning Center that had misspelled learning a few days ago? Well, that sign is now fixed. As federal officials say, hundreds of investigators from the FBI, DHS, and ICE are now digging into all of the fraud schemes that have allegedly been taking place in Minnesota now for years. Molly?
Yeah, a lot of questions to come, systemic issues at hand. I wonder who paid to fix the sign. Garrett, thank you very much. Garrett Tunney, we appreciate it. Mike?
Molly, let's bring in Hugh Hewitt, Fox News.
So the Small Business Association cracking down on fraud in Minnesota, with Administrator Kelly Loeffler posting in part this quote. Today, our agency took action to suspend 6,900 Minnesota borrowers amid suspected fraudulent activity, circles suspected. In total, these borrowers were approved for 7,900 PPP and EIDL loans worth approximately $400 million. But Democrats are doubling down on blaming President Trump for politicizing the scandal.
We're taking fraud seriously. We're working every day to improve our systems, hold those criminals accountable, and move our state forward. That's why it's incredibly frustrating to me that Donald Trump and Republicans want to use this as a political vehicle to cut funding entirely to our state.
Minnesota State Representative Nolan West joins us now. He's the co-chair of the Children and...
He's cutting funding entirely because there's potentially $8 billion in fraud. And nobody's done anything about it except an independent YouTuber, Nick Shirley. That's it. And I'm sure there's a number of whistleblowers and the FBI and DHS and all federal agencies that pertain to the scandal are involved now. But it's like, all of this rampant corruption was taking place and nothing happened. That's why he's withholding funding.
Families Committee and is with us. Great to see you. Your thoughts about blaming Trump for something he had nothing to do with, nor did he have the job when most of this fraud was taking place.
Yeah, no, he's not governor of Minnesota, and that's not how our system works. We have industrial scale fraud here. That's what the attorneys have been saying as they indict 80 some people, and we're seeing convictions across the board. So that's around, they're saying, could be $9 billion. So when you look at $400 million for PPP loans, that's peanuts compared to what we're seeing in Minnesota. And this has been going on for years. So trying to make it a thing right now when nothing has been done, when we've seen nothing happening on this in years, just makes absolutely no sense.
So, Nolan, when did you know about it? And what was the biggest surprise, if anything, when it became exposed and getting more exposed every day?
Well, I mean, we've known about it for probably a little over a year, at least I have anyways. And the couple of these centers get over $1 million of tax dollars. And we checked them out. Nobody's there. Then even KSTP News went down there. We had mainstream media down there seeing no children present. And that made a little waves, but it didn't come until Nick Shirley had that viral video of doing the same thing. And it was just starkly there for everyone to see. And if you're claiming, 40 some kids, I think it is, they're claiming and getting reimbursed by the taxpayer for, you go up at 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. and there's no children? That's insane. And then eventually they invited the mainstream media, the Star Tribune, that's our big liberal paper. They go in there and there's like 4 kids and they're like, look, we're a legitimate business. Well, okay, we can't, allegedly they are fraudsters, but if there's only 4 kids you're watching right now, but you're getting reimbursed over $1 million a year in CCAP, right, there's still something up going on there.
So Tim Walz put this on, and he's running for election, put this up.
This scandal ties directly to the Biden laptop, Clinton's servers. They had servers in Congress also. Biden's auto pen pardons. These are all the Steele dossier, them setting up Trump. All of these scandals are completely outlandish. They're completely outlandish. And they're able to get away with all this nonsense because the major paper in Minnesota, for example, did 0 investigative journalism. The only investigative journalism they did, apparently, was to try to refute Nick Shirley's actual investigative journalism.
Yesterday. This is Trump's long game. We spend years cracking down on fraudsters. It's a serious issue, but this has been his plan all along. He's politicizing the issue to defund programs that help Minnesotans. Really? So this has been his plan all along. So he says, well, you know what? We have had 70 plus convictions, 82 indictments. What do you say to that?
Every single one of those is from the federal government. At the state level, they have sat on their hands and haven't gone after these fraudsters at all. They've said, oh, we've hired a few investigators, but they can't even answer. Like, we ask them, how do you go after fraud? How do you detect fraud when you do your license visits? And they still haven't answered that question that was asked days ago. So I have a feeling it's not enough. They should know better, but we have to get to the bottom of this because $9 billion, we could help a whole lot more people if we didn't have so much fraud in the system.
But we're too busy helping Somalia and perhaps the Somali terror group Al-Shabaab. So now, into effect in Minnesota with the new year, you now have paid leave program, and it includes up to 12 weeks care for newborn or sick family members, 12 weeks for serious illness, capped at 20 weeks per year, and separate from existing parental leave that can run concurrently. So things are going to get even more lenient in Minnesota legally, let alone if you want to abuse the system. You guys ready to pay for this?
Oh, we've been warning them about how bad this rollout's going to be. And one thing that people don't know, you can designate one person annually as the person you care for. So I can designate my uncle living in Florida, go on vacation, and it's up to your employer to investigate whether you're really caring for that person or not. Wow. Like, that's just... There's no guardrails. It's going to be ridden with fraud, just like we see in our other systems. The honor system is not the best way to distribute all this money.
We got to look into Maine, Washington State, as well as California, and hopefully that's on the agenda. But you have your hands full over.
So, ladies and gentlemen, surge in federal officers, PBS. This is not difficult to find out. If Tim Walz or other Democrats participated in the fraud, if they were complicit, not just inept, if they were complicit, it's not difficult to find out. Anyway, go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. We'll have an update, an upload on that channel. Thanks, everybody. God bless you. I'll be here tonight at around 10:30 Eastern for the evening live stream. We're doing 3 live streams a day. You can set your clocks. 3 live streams a day.